Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the apprentice of the Sith Lord. Sidious killed Darth Plagueis. That is all we know. But what if the Sith Lord did not go quietly like Sidious thought? What if his spirit lived? What if he found a new apprentice in the form of one Uzumaki Naruto? What if he found the perfect apprentice? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard! Chapter 6 Where is everyone? Darth Sage stirred when an intense disturbance in the Force basically shouted for him to awaken from his slumber, and the Sith apprentice quickly got off the ground to obey. He turned his head to the disturbance the Force told him was near and used its power to give the optical organs a sight beyond normal sight. What his eyes now saw through the Force was the special Jounin in charge of the second part of the Chunin exams, and she was fighting her old sensei Orochimaru of the Sannin. It wasn't hard to recognize the man, as Haku had provided him with a bingo book that originally belonged to Zabuza, and had read through its contents in hopes of finding future tools from that particular source. The idea was soon ruined though when the Sith realized that given how word would reach other missing nin of how Zabuza was betrayed by Gato, they would either turn the boy down upon making an offer, or possibly attack just to prevent any future repeats of what Gato did. Still, it was information they kept the Sith in the loop of who was who in the world, and to be cautious of in the event future dealings must be done. Of course, Darth Sage would never do business with Orochimaru, and even now had planned to screw up the Sannin's invasion of the Leaf with the chance of the man meeting his end in the process. As the young boy watched the battle unfold, an idea formed in his mind on how to use this little scuffle to his advantage, and further keep the Sannin from suspecting Suna's change in the invasion plans. You've gotten stronger, Anko-chan. I'm impressed. Still, you can never defeat me, as I taught you everything you know, and yet, it's not everything I know, said Orochimaru in his usual taunting fashion. Just you wait, you bastard. I'm going to rip your guts out and then stuff them down your throat, said Anko with the Sannin laughing his snake-like laugh at her. So hostile. So bloodthirsty. I'm going to miss that about you after I extinguish your life force from this world, said Orochimaru, as he had blocked her kunai strike and kicked the woman into a nearby tree. Don't count on it, said Darth Sage, as he sent Orochimaru sailing back into a tree across from Anko, and now stood between them. Another interloper. May I ask who you are, stranger? Said Orochimaru, as he found the mysterious power behind that attack to be hurtful and interesting at the same time. A Lee shinobi. Like her. You really didn't think getting into Konoha would be easy, did you? Said Darth Sage, knowing the only way to take down a liar was to be an even bigger liar while making it seem like the lie was the truth. Since I am from this village, my answer would have to be yes, said Orochimaru, as he was looking over this new figure with interest, and wondered what that power was the boy had used. And your secret partner within the Leaf's government in all of this didn't have a hand in it? Said Darth Sage, knowing the only way for Orochimaru could get into the Leaf was through someone from within and had influential pull that rivaled the Hokage. How does he know that? Danzo assured me the utmost secrecy. Not only that, but I have not found the Uchiha boy anywhere, thought Orochimaru while the Sith read his mind and the image of the War Hawk appeared, so boy knew who the name belonged to when it came to recognizing him. So sure of yourself, aren't you, Orochimaru? Did he also tell you the Uchiha would be participating in the Chunin exams this year? Sorry to spoil your fun, said Darth Sage, knowing the Sannin would become enraged at that. Where is the Uchiha? Said Orochimaru angrily, but was instantly pushed back by that same invisible power from before, and slowly being lifted off the ground while feeling his throat constricting. Somewhere in the village. Somewhere safe from you. The real question you should ask yourself now though, is did my secret partner screw up, or did my secret partner rat me out? Said Darth Sage, as he walked up to the Sannin, and drew Lunar Eclipse from its sheath, before slicing off the man's right arm in one clean slice. Ah! Said Orochimaru, as he felt the pain of the limb being cut, and then it's slowly slicing off his body. Run along now, little snake. The Sandaime has neither the time nor patience to deal with someone so insignificant, said Darth Sage, as he threw the Sannin away, and heard the man's body crash through a few thick trees to further add to the list of injuries. Turning around, he saw Anko looking at him in shock and awe at what the Sith had just done before she realized just what the boy had done. She instantly became angry with him, trying to rush the Sith to cause him pain out of her own personal anguish, and then bring back what was left to the Hokage. Sensing this in advance, Darth Sage sent her flying back into the tree Orochimaru had kicked her into moments ago, and then grabbed the surprised woman by the face to read her mind before using the force to make the hostile special Jounin sleep. Like earlier with the red-haired girl with glasses, this woman was not one of the people in this village he intended to take, but seeing a fragment of her life made him see that things had changed, and could use it to his advantage. Sealing Anko away, the Sith moved with an increase in purpose, as he knew it wouldn't be long before things got out of control, and have more than even he could handle. Kyumo Genin team. No sign of either target. I hope we get the female one. I don't like the idea of spreading my legs for the male Hyuga. Even if he probably won't know it when we knock him out to do the deed, said Samui, as the blonde-haired woman with the impressive rack, which she kept concealed to make herself seem younger, and hated how the bindings put a real uncomfortable amount of pressure on her body. We can't take him with us. He's a branch family member, which means a cagebird seal is on his forehead, and will destroy his eyes before we even get halfway back to Kyumo when they activate it, said Karui, knowing the Raikage had sent them to capture the girl and at the very least get impregnated by the boy in order to possess the Byakugan eyes of the Hyuga clan. We have to keep searching for as long as possible. We already have the 2 necessary types of scrolls in order to qualify for the next round of the Chunin exams, so we have to find either target quickly before our time in this forest of death runs out, said Yujido, as she didn't like the idea of impregnating herself with the male Hyuga sperm, but the Raikage had told her that, and Nibi's power would possibly make a new form of the eyes that would become unstoppable. Heads up, kitten. I sense someone is coming here towards you. Someone strong, dark, and dangerous, said Nibi, as its vessel stiffened, and let out a cat-like moan of anger to inform the other 2 Kyumo shinobi of the impending arrival of someone with potentially hostile intentions. Come on out. We know you're here, said Yujido, as she heard an amused chuckle, and let out a cat-like hiss when the shadow of the figure appeared to their right. This is unexpected. And here I thought only Sabaku no Gara was the only Jinchuriki competing in the Chunin exams, said Darth Sage while seeing Yujido hiss at him again and her teammates draw weapons. You must be suicidal to face the 3 of us. Especially me, considering what I am, said Yujito while the Sith just let out another chuckle. Hardly. I also sense your intentions for being in these exams have nothing to do with the advancement in rank. In fact, I would wager that none of you are genin, and you are here for far less noble purposes, said Darth Sage, as he felt the Nibi was blocking the deeper regions of Yujido's mind, but the other 2 did not have such a mental defense, and read their thoughts on the business they were here to handle. And how did you come to that conclusion, said Samui, as she readied her tanto to fight the Sith, and just saw the boy smile behind his hood. All 3 of you were complaining about it 2 seconds ago. You really should learn to keep your voices down in a terrain where they tend to travel, said Darth Sage, as he was not about to reveal his mind-reading process to them, and the chance they had some way to block him naturally with a means of turning it on or off with ease. He's lying, kitten. He tried to read your mind and I had to block him, said Nibi while Yujito frowned at this news and wondered if he was some kind of leaf shinobi from the Yamanaka clan. Why are you here? Said Karui, as she had her sword out, and ready to slice this possible enemy to pieces. To recruit you away from Kyumo and over to my side simply because I think your village doesn't seem to truly appreciate any of your talents, said Darth Sage, who took a step forward, and dodged an attack from Yujito manipulation of Nibi's fire she launched at him. Take another step and your barbecue, said Yujito while the Sith watched the fiery attack burn the ground behind him. Impressive. Most impressive. You will make a great addition to my side, said Darth Sage, as he took another step forward, then moved to his left to avoid Karui's vertical slash, ducked down under the vertical one that followed, and punched the woman in the stomach, causing the Kyumo shinobi to slide back. I'm not going anywhere with you. None of us are, said Yujito defiantly at him. That's where you're wrong. Very wrong, said Darth Sage, as he drew Lunar Eclipse from its sheath once more, and motioned the Kenjutsu users to come at him. That sword. Quickly, Kitten, tell them not to engage the boy, said Nibby in a panic, as it sensed the power behind the blade, and sang clearly to the demon cat of instant death at the hands of the user if he were opposed by them. Wait. Nibby says to stop, said Yujito, but it was already too late, as Karui and Samui had already charged forward to meet their enemy in combat. The young Sith apprentice merely slipped into lightsaber form 2, Makashi stance, as the two Kumo shinobi came at him, and began the intricate dance of death. Ni Yujito watched, as the weapons of her teammates were destroyed with a few quick slashes of his sword, and had deep slash marks along the torso that required they get medical attention immediately. Care to join them? Said Darth Sage, as he motioned with his left hand at the two on the ground, bleeding, and in severe pain from the damage done. Why are you doing this? You don't wear a Konoha headband or any other to show your allegiance to a village. So why go after us? Said Yujito, as she saw him step over Samui, and towards her. Because I want to when I can. You three are wasting your talents serving a village that does not appreciate you in the slightest. Your Kage tells you to participate in this year's Chunin exams and orders the capturing of the Hyuga clan's bloodline. If not through an unmarked female main family member brought back to Kumo, then by impregnating yourselves through a male branch member, and learn the secrets of their bloodline that way. The fact you were hoping to catch the former among the two participating in these Chunin exams means you dislike the idea of the second option, said Darth Sage while Yujito gritted her teeth in anger. Stay out of our heads, said Yujito while the young Sith smiled at her. But it's so much fun. Besides, is your loyalty to the Raikage that much greater than your own dignity, and fornicating with a Hyuga male just to have his offspring? Or their own dignity for that matter? Each of you were assigned to find the male Hyuga together and then get pregnant with his child, so you had 3 Hyuga children in Kumo. It's sad you don't know what the Raikage intends to do once such a successful mission was completed and do with those 3 babies, said Darth Sage in a sad tone while Yujito eyed him and then his sword still in his hand. What do you mean? Said Yujito, as she saw a strange look on his face, and he seemed to be looking at something far off that her eyes couldn't. I have the power to see the future, Ni Yujito. Had I not been here, your team's assigned mission to capture the bloodline through the secondary means would have been achieved, and all 3 of you would become mothers each with your Hyuga child. Sadly, 2 of them, each from your teammates, will not survive being infants, as their Byakugan eyes will be extracted for study, and yours will be forever robbed from you after the Raikage lies to keep your offspring under his control to be his secret weapon, said Darth Sage while Yujito looked at him in shock, anger, and yet with a hint of fear at the possible truth behind his words. You lie. Raikage-sama would never do that. He would never needlessly destroy 2 Hyuga children and keep mine from me, said Yujito, as tears threatened to rise up in her eyes, and the thought of being denied a life she had created was unspeakable in terms of cruelty. You would be surprised how far your Raikage would go to know the secrets behind the Byakugan eyes. Ask the Nibby itself if I'm lying to you. It will be able to detect a lie, said Darth Sage, as he saw her eyes glaze over, and knew Nibby was talking to the woman. Well, Nibby? Is he telling the truth? Thought Yujito, seeing Nibby not looking her in the eyes while having a downcast look on its face. Yes. He's telling the truth, said Nibby with Yujito's eyes looking at the demon in disbelief. Which one? You detecting a lie from him? About him seeing the future? About what the Raikage would do to those 3 children? Thought Yujito with the Nibby looking away. Everything. He told you the truth about everything, said Nibby while Yujito didn't want to believe it and showed on her face when re-entering the real world. From the tears in your eyes, I take it the Nibby gave you the answer that you didn't want to hear, and wished I lied, said Darth Sage, as he saw the tears on Yujito's face increase, and soon she couldn't look in his general direction. That bastard. I hate him so much right now, said Yujito while the Nibi's power flared around her form while drawing on its power through her anger.
So why continue working for him?
Knowing what he'll make you give up without even knowing it, said Darth Sage while seeing the woman let out some of her anger simply by burning a good chunk of the forest around them.
And like you'll be any different?
Said Yujito accusingly at him. Of course, I will be different, said Darth Sage with Yujito narrowing her eyes at him.
And how do I know you won't screw me over like the Raikage?
Said Yujito knowing the Sith in front of her could easily do that just like the Raikage himself.
I wouldn't do that to a fellow Jinchuriki, said Darth Sage seeing Yujito's eyes widen at his admission.
You're a Jinchuriki?
Which one?
Said Yujito seeing him sheath his sword.
The strongest of them all.
Kubi. Said Darth Sage seeing the woman back up in even greater fear.
You. I know about you.
The Sandaime Hokage has been using every available resource at his disposal to find and bring you back to the leaf. Said Yujito seeing the boy just let out another chuckle.
Oh, he can try.
Make no mistake about it, I want to see him suffer for his actions against me, and see his heart break when the poison I inject into this village brings it to an end, said Darth Sage, as he saw Yujito looking at him curiously while walking over to the two down Kumo shinobi, and put a hand on each of them where their wounds were.
What are you doing?
Said Yujito seeing the Sith closing his eyes in concentration. Healing your teammates and my new subordinates, said Darth Sage calling upon the dark side to make the wounds close. We never agreed to being your subordinates, said Karui, as she had been awake, if just barely to overhear the entire conversation the Sith had with Yujito, and what the Raikage had planned for any Hyuga children they brought into the world.
Are you saying that serving the Raikage and offering up the Hyuga children you would bring into this world through your mission is a much better life?
Said Darth Sage before standing and letting the two women slowly do the same. I still can't believe the Raikage would do that, said Samui, as she could stand the part of the mission where being impregnated was part of it, but the loss of that very child, which she would eventually make her become fatter than a beached whale, and then go through hours of intense painful labor only to lose the child for the eyes it carried, did not sit well with her. He would in order to understand them through an examination once removed. Yujito's child would have been spared because her Hyuga offspring's eyes would become much stronger on account of the Nibi inside of her, said Darth Sage seeing the three of them still trying to come to terms with what happened. I can't serve him, said Yujito at last while walking a few steps away from the group. And yet you don't have anywhere to go, said Darth Sage while letting his words hang in the air for a second until she spoke the word that he wanted her to say next.
Except with you. That's what you want me to say right now, don't you?
Said Yujito accusingly and saw the Sith smile knowing that was exactly what he wanted her to say to him.
Possibly.
When you consider your options, you only have one person you can turn to for help, and that person would be me, said Darth Sage with a knowing smile. And us too, right, said Karui in a dry semi-sarcastic tone.
Who do you think the Raikage will blame for the failure of your mission?
Who will the Hokage punish for losing one of his two Jinchuriki upon your return? He will kill the two and publicly just to get his point across, said Darth Sage seeing the two beautiful women look at Yujito and then at him.
Okay.
We're in, said Samui with Karui nodding her head.
Excellent.
Of course, for this to work, I need you three to be out like lights, and be sealed away where no one can sense you, said Darth Sage before using the force on Samui and Karui while Yujito remained standing because of the Nibi inside of her.
I'd prefer to be awake thank you, said Yujito sensing the outside influence of his power trying to make her fall asleep. Too bad.
Sleep. Darth Sage, as he wasn't going to put up with the woman's sudden desire to be stubborn and resist his power. Well, at least you will get a nice cat nap before seeing him again, said Nibi while Yujito collapsed and fell into unconsciousness.
Damn it. That took a lot more out of me than I thought.
Time to pack up my 3 new tools and be off, thought Darth Sage, as he put them all in storage scrolls, made several shadow clone before running off, and taking his prizes out of the village.
Now the hard part began.
Hokage's office several days later.
What?
Yelled the Hokage, as the Jonin senseis of Team 8 and 9 came into his office to tell him what their remaining students from the Forest of Death told them.
Our students have been kidnapped, Hokage-sama.
Shino and Kiba both told me Hinata was kidnapped, with the culprit being Naruto, who has gone by the name Darth Sage. Said Kurenai, who had seen her students after they made it to the tower since they were that close, and used the 2 scrolls in their possession to reach her.
Same with me, Hokage-sama.
Lee and Tenten were both taken to be used as tools by the Uzumaki boy for his future plans, said Guy, as he didn't want to lose his Minimi and his Kunoichi weapons master.
Anko-san is also missing.
Several of the proctors went to see her about one of the grass teams being killed before the second part of the exams, and that someone had entered into the exams illegally for foul purposes. She went into the Forest of Death to investigate, but never came back, and the Inuzuka clan says there is a strong scent of snakes in the area they tracked her to, with second scent being Orochimaru before picking up another scent we believe to be Naruto's, said Kakashi, as he had helped them with the tracking with his dog summons, and found the spot where the apparent confrontation took place.
There is also no sign of Kyumo's team or the other grass team, though the second grass team from that village may have fallen to foul play at the hands of the Forest of Death itself. We did find the bodies of 2 of them, plus a big bear, and they showed signs of being mauled. Though we're not sure what killed the bear, since it looked like it was cut vertically in half in such a clean way with a weapon of some kind. Iwa's team seems lost, with only the 1 girl on the team being the only real survivor of what she says were the animals in the Forest of Death attacking them all at once. I suspect she's lying, but if we try anything, I fear it may lead to war with IWA, since they would suspect us of foul play, and it could lead us to war. She wants no further part in taking the rest of the Chunin exams when we finished speaking with her, said Inuzuka Hana, as she had joined the search party after hearing her little brother got messed up, and at the hands of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki no less. If Naruto was here, he would have stayed someplace where we wouldn't bother looking for him. There may even be a chance he's still here trying to take more people. Track him down. All of you, said the Sandaime, seeing the group nod quickly before they moved out to find the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and, for some, their lost students. With the group of Chunin or higher-ranked shinobi gone, the Sandaime Hokage put his hands together and went through everything in his head with what he knew. Orochimaru was suspected of being in the village, a major problem he had failed to handle himself all those years ago, and apparently Naruto was the infamous Darth Sage he now suspected was running Gado Kanpani, with that Haku girl being his right hand. Somehow, the boy had been able to take down several genin teams, plus a special jounin if he suspected was the case, then captured the ones he thought had the most potential, and made off with them right under his very nose. But why not try to grab the Suna team? Or the Sound team? Or the new Inoshikacho that was Team 10? It didn't make sense. So, what do you want to do now? Said Jiraiya, appearing in the room after entering the window, knowing they had to finish the Chunin exams somehow with what they had.
Finish the Chunin exams.
The Kazekage's children made it to the central tower first, and each of them dominated the preliminaries. The Sound team was destroyed entirely, with the exception of one named Dosu being the only one to survive it after beating one Akimichi Choji, and then Shikamaru from Team 10 will also be competing in the finals, said the Sandaime, with Jiraiya wincing at the fact there were more foreign shinobi in the finals than there were Leaf shinobi. This was going to hurt the Leaf in the long run with the clients. Kyumo's going to give us one hell of a headache when that jounin reports back to the Raikage. What do we tell him? Said Jiraiya, knowing things were getting really bad for the Leaf right now. Nothing. He knows fully well that those Kyumo shinobi signed the waiver and we aren't considered responsible for anything that happens to them. If he finds out Naruto took not only his shinobi, but ours, the Raikage will dispatch a team to retrieve all of them before we can, and that will make things worse, said the Sandaime, knowing that legally the Leaf was in the clear, but the Raikage never really cared about legality, and would most likely pound his fists until the Lightning Daimyo told him otherwise. And Naruto? I doubt he's still here, said Jiraiya, seeing the Sandaime scowl at him. We know where the boy is. Once the Chunin exams are over, you bring him back, and seal away his memories so we can start from scratch, said the Sandaime, seeing Jiraiya rub the back of his head.
You're going to turn him into a mindless weapon, aren't you? Said Jiraiya accusingly at the Sandaime Hokage. I tried being nice, Jiraiya. I played the gentle grandfather figure to him, and this is how the boy repays my kindness. His life belongs to me, Jiraiya. Before I die, the boy will be the most dangerous weapon in Konoha, and forever loyal to the Leaf until the day he dies, said the Sandaime while glaring at his former student. You were playing nice with him, old man. Had you actually shown real affection and not let the people walk all over him, then thing wouldn't have become so bad, said Jiraiya while the Sandaime slammed his hand on the desk and pointed to the window for the Sannin to jump out of. That boy's purpose in life is to serve the Hokage and the Leaf Village. I am the Hokage and I say the boy will be molded into a weapon whether you approve of it or not, said the Sandaime seeing Jiraiya scowl and move to the window. You know, if Tsunade ever finds out we lied to her, she'll kill us both, and make sure it's a slow painful death, said Jiraiya, as he thought about Tsunade, and the Sandaime had reached for his pipe to smoke it. Which is why you must bring the boy back quickly and keep Tsunade away from him, said the Hokage, knowing the woman's temper was something to be feared when she had unleashed it on her enemies. Even Orochimaru thought twice before facing an enraged Senju Tsunade. I have to. If she ever finds out, Tsunade will see him first, and then she may tell him of his heritage. I don't know if Naruto's tapped into the Kyuubi's power yet, but it's clear he's got some kind of power at his command, and I don't want to see that directed at me when he comes asking for the answer to question of why we kept such information from him in the first place, said Jiraiya, knowing that was the Sandaime's dumb idea after sealing Kyuubi into Naruto. I did what I thought was right, said the Hokage, which made Jiraiya scoff and shake his head in disbelief. You did what you did out of spite. You did what you did out of mindless hate for the boy over the loss of your wife. I'm as much to blame for lying to Tsunade about him being dead and letting you get away with it for those 8 long years that were the boy's hell in this village, said Jiraiya, knowing it would get under the Sandaime's skin. Don't try to run from your duties to me, Jiraiya, said the Hokage in a warning-like tone while glaring holes in his former student's head. I'm not. I'm going down with this sinking ship of a village just as you are. Though I have to ask, old man, when you die, and face your wife on the other side, how do you plan to explain your actions to her? Said Jiraiya before leaping out the window. I don't have to explain anything to anyone. I am the god of shinobi and I don't answer to anyone. Not even her. Thought the Sandaime, as he couldn't look at the picture of his late wife anymore, and took it off his desk into the compartment on his right side. Konoha Red Light District. The group of Leaf Shinobi moved quickly through the area, following the scent of their shinobi kidnapper, and eventually made their way to the seedy hotel Naruto seemed to have stayed while in Konoha. The owner of the hotel was vague in his talk with them, as he really didn't pay attention to the kid, and just told them to find the kid's room on the 3rd floor. They glared at the moron before running up the stairs, made it to Naruto's chosen room and kicked it down and entered with the intent of making the boy tell them where the missing genin were. And saw explosive tags all around the room, ignited. Shit! Run! Said Kakashi, as the group ran to the nearest window, and jumped through it just in time before the building exploded. Damn it! Said Kurenai angrily, as they had been duped by a 13-year-old brat, and was now somewhere possibly outside the village. The question now was, where? Gato Kanpani HQ at the moment. Haku! Said Darth Sage barked, walking into the large yet secret room he told the female ice user would be used for holding his future subordinates until they were ready. Yes, Sage-sama. Said Haku, as she appeared instantly before him, and kneeled in his presence. I have the last of them here. We have a little less than a full month to prepare my new subordinates before the hammer is dropped on us, said Darth Sage seriously, as he threw the scrolls at Haku, and she caught each of them. With all due respect, Sage-sama, a month is not enough to work with so many, and there is a risk of, said Haku, but was silenced when the Sith glared at her, and she once again kept her head bowed low. I am well aware of the risks, Haku. Zabuza trained you in the shinobi arts with ruthless efficiency when under his command. You will be doing the same when assisting me in their training, and they will be loyally obeying my commands.
This is non-negotiable," said Darth Sage, as he was sweating slightly, and cursed his need to get away from the leaf before past memories reminded him of the weak boy he had once been. "I understand, Sage-sama," said Haku, as she knew better than to question him, and yet worry filled her at seeing the Sith appearing fatigued from the mission. "Good. Set things up." "I must rest for a time," said Darth Sage, as he left the room, and to the elevator system. Nodding to his retreating form, Haku unsealed the scrolls, and placed each individual in separate rooms set up with this large one. As with the others sent to her, Haku removed any weapons they had, and put paper seal locks on the outside of the doors. The rooms themselves had a bed, bathroom, and closet space for clothing for each of her master's guests. However, it was the sight of her master in such a weakened state that made her worry, and wished she could do something to help ease his suffering. Haku knew he endured the pain rather than let it heal. It was clear by the way the Sith was taught by whoever had been the teacher, and a cruel teacher at that. From what she sensed from Darth Sage, he was using his pain as a focal point of his power, and there was a lot of pain to be sure with the amount he used against his enemies. Still, too much of this darkness would destroy him before long, and Haku couldn't have that happen to her master. "I'll be the light in your darkness, my master," thought Haku, as she would help her master of a Sith achieve his dream, and bring about the ambitious dream being set into motion. With Darth Sage, the Sith found the Force when he slept to be a truly interesting place when asleep, as it showed him the past of Konoha, the world, and more importantly, the land of Whirlpool that was his family's home. He saw their mastery over seals, how the Shodane's own wife was an Uzumaki, and the Kyuubi's first Jinchuriki. The Force showed him how the Kyuubi being sealed inside of her was kept secret to only a select few, which involved the Sandaime Hokage himself, and another man that the Force aged to show was none other than Danzo. The image of what Whirlpool looked like at the height of its glory was shown burning, pain echoing all around it, and the killers of Naruto's ancestors being shown clear as day. They were Leaf Shinobi. Root Shinobi to be more precise. Hurry! Kill them all. Danzo-sama wants the Uzumaki bloodline to stay in Konoha so only the village can possess the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, said a Root ANBU captain to his subordinate. "We're almost done on this end." "I'm a bit surprised the Sandaime Hokage also signed off on this," said the Root ANBU of lieutenant rank. "They both want the same thing. Control over the Kyuubi is essential to dominating of the elemental countries. With Uzumaki Kushina in the leaf, we don't need these threats to the village's plans, and risk the Kyuubi being sealed in one loyal to this place," said the Root ANBU captain before an Uzumaki thought to be slain struck from behind with a sword to the shinobi's back. "You may have killed us. But know that when an Uzumaki is betrayed by those he or she once called friend, a curse is placed on the betrayers," said the Uzumaki shinobi before he was knocked the ground and had a sword pointed to his throat. "Explain," said the Root ANBU lieutenant. "Very well. The curse of the Uzumaki basically curses those who would betray us at the highest level, and see to it that the old eye for an eye punishes those responsible for it. In this case, your village will suffer many hardships, and losing those close to you. You said that the Sandaime Hokage and this Danzo character were responsible for this betrayal, so they will suffer the most. Everything they cherish and crave will be denied by this curse. You wish to control the power of Kyuubi, but it won't happen, as the fox will one day take its wrath out on your village, and take the lives of all you love. Everything they want in life will be taken from their grasp when they least suspect it," said the Uzumaki shinobi, grinning while blood ran down his cheek and his injuries catching up with him. "We'll be sure to pass that along to Hokage-sama and Danzo-sama," said the Root ANBU while preparing to strike them. "No. You won't," said the Uzumaki, as he made several one-handed hand signs, and then put the hand into his chest with all the chakra he could bring into it, before exploding in a blast of energy that killed the Root ANBU lieutenant and several other Root shinobi around him, and awakened the Sith from his vision. "Master, did you see that vision from the Force?" thought Darth Sage, with Darth Plagueis nodding while mentally cursing in several languages at the cosmic energy doing this. "Indeed, I did, my young apprentice. From what I could see, it was your mother's home before coming to Konoha, and was completely unaware of it being destroyed by Leaf Shinobi, said Plagueis while Kyuubi just watched the two talk from its cage. I think the Force is telling me to go there. Considering it happened so long ago, the place should be abandoned, and I could take my tools there to train in secret, thought Darth Sage while Plagueis leaned back on his throne, contemplating this idea, and while he didn't want to reveal the boy's heritage just yet, he might not have a choice in the matter. It's worth checking out. I would suggest making some shadow clones for this though, as you are still needed here for now, and we can't risk any mistakes, said Plagueis while the boy knew that tone of voice the Sith Lord used really meant all three of them couldn't risk any mistakes right now. I'll send a small squad of shadow clones after I'm better rested, thought Darth Sage, as he went back to sleep, and let the Force guide his mind once again. He's going to find out. Sooner than later, said Kyuubi at last while Plagueis could only grimace at that truthful fact. It's the will of the Force that he knows about his mother's side, and what happened. It's when my apprentice learns it was his father, who was responsible for sealing you into him will we have a problem, and I will require your help to see that the boy stays focused on the main objective, said Plagueis with the fox nodding. I know. I also suspect the ramifications of the Force showing him what happened to Whirlpool won't set in until much later when he goes there personally to see it, said Kyuubi with the Sith Lord not that far away nodding in agreement. The dark side will be strong there. We must prepare him for whatever such things that destroyed part of your world can throw at him, said Plagueis knowing such places like Whirlpool were scattered on different worlds throughout the galaxy and saturated with the dark side of the Force after something with incredible impact echoed outward. Konoha 1 month later. Smoke rose from the leaf, as the invasion led by Orochimaru had begun, and his forces charged through the village's walls to destroy their master's enemy. They had been so confident that victory would be at hand, as Suna was on their side, and would be backing them up in key areas for the invasion. Sabaka no Gara was in the large stadium where the Chunin exams was taking place and would be vital to the pincer movement that was designed to cripple the Leaf. However, the plan never reached a third of its true potential, as Suna had done absolutely nothing in terms of backing them up, used Gaara's demonic power to attack from within the village, or the snake summoning scrolls Orochimaru gave them to use. Instead, the forces of Suna had flanked them in a surprise attack of their own, and decimated the Snake Sanin's forces. Sound shinobi hidden in the stadium were struck down by hidden Suna shinobi. The Kazekage himself along with the Hokage were doing battle against the disguised Orochimaru, who had worn his own Kage robes with the kanji for sound on the back of them, and a veil to cover his face while adding a small henge to his face to hide his yellow snake-like eyes. Of course, the Sannin had been furious the Kazekage had seemingly betrayed him, and while that was hypocritical of Orochimaru to think that considering what the original plan had been, it still hurt. In fact, Orochimaru had been so angry with the Kazekage, he failed to mention the betrayal to the Hokage, who had been unable to capture in the special prison his Sound 4 had been trained to make especially for this moment, and was now surrounded on all sides. This isn't possible. How did this happen? I altered my plans perfectly when an audience with the Kazekage wasn't possible to switch places with him. Why did he betray me? Wait. That brat. That robed brat with that damn sword played me for a fool. He wasn't working for the Leaf and he certainly didn't tell the Sandaime about my plans for the invasion to put them on edge. But why? How does the Kazekage benefit from all of this? Thought Orochimaru, as he knew escaping was the ideal plan, but with his Sound 4 dead, or captured it wasn't possible. It's time to finish you my former student. Something I should have done years ago, said the Hokage while the Sannin just grinned at him. Do you really want to do that, Sarutobi-sensei? I would think you would want to at least consider keeping me alive long enough to extract information about my former student Anko-chan during the second part of the Chunin exams? Said Orochimaru making the Hokage's eyes narrow at him. He's bluffing Sarutobi. Kill him now while you still have the chance. Don't make the same mistake twice. Said Enma in his adamantine staff form. Am I? When I was in the forest of death looking for the Uchiha, Anko-chan found me first, and we had a little chat before a boy with dark robes appeared. He claimed to be a Leaf Shinobi, but now I see that's not the case, and we were both dancing to the tune that little brat played, said Orochimaru, seeing the Sandame's eyes widen knowing who it was the Sannin was talking about. Naruto, said the Sandame in a whispered voice. So that's his name. And the Kyuubi Jinchuriki himself no less. No wonder he was able to hurt me a month ago. Still, I'm curious about that power of his, and that strange sword he carries wields. I never sensed the fox's chakra being used against me the entire time, said Orochimaru, genuinely curious about how the boy did what he did and had been for the entire month after getting his new body ahead of schedule. So that's my secret financial backer's name. If he is the Kyuubi's vessel, then the boy is far stronger than Gaara, and could easily back up the claim of destroying my village in the event of betraying his trust. If Orochimaru tells him everything, it could ruin Suna's chance of rising to the top and get clients to side with us, thought the Kazekage, as he saw the Hokage's desire to kill Orochimaru wavering slightly, and knew time was of the essence. I'm sure we can work out a suitable arrangement between us, Sarutobi-sensei. For old time's sake? Said Orochimaru, as he saw the old man considering it, and grinned further with each passing second. Wind style, tornado of the abyss jutsu, said the Kazekage, as he had heard enough, and struck true with his S-class wind jutsu, hitting the snake Sannin before tearing the surprised man to shreds. What have you done? Said the Sandame Hokage, seeing the Kazekage walk over to the dead body of Orochimaru and saw the legendary Kusanagi hidden within the dead man's remains. Doing what you lack the willpower to do yourself, Hokage-sama. Orochimaru is a snake to the very end. Had you given him what he asked, it would have been a disaster waiting to happen, and I do not trust the snake Sannin to leave my village alone after this, said the Kazekage while taking the sword from the corpse, and decided this would be a nice souvenir to hold on to. It was not your decision to make, said the Hokage while scowling at his ally. Nor was it your decision to consider his offer in helping to hunt down your lost Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Perhaps you should consider retiring again and let someone much younger take the title of Hokage, said the Kazekage glaring at the older man. As long as I draw breath, the title of Hokage will be mine, and only when I am ready to name a successor will one be announced, said the Sandame Hokage, with the Kazekage just letting out a snort while walking away. Do what you want with your village. It makes little difference to me. However, I think you're going to have a difficult time explaining to the Fire Daimyo how this happened, and why you were so unprepared you were for Orochimaru's invasion. Even more when he finds out you actually considered his offer in letting him live to hunt down the Kyuubi Jinchuriki without any guarantee the man would do it, said the Kazekage before he left the angry Hokage, knowing his words hit home. That was uncalled for, said Jiraiya from behind a tree the Kazekage had walked past once the man reached the ground. Says the writer of those perverted Ika Paradise books, said the Kazekage calmly, with Jiraiya making a strange face at the insult to his precious books. There is nothing wrong with what I do on the side, said Jiraiya defensively. Still, I require your assistance in the future with my youngest son, and his seal being less than stable, said the Kazekage, as the entire month leading up to the exams had led him to a painful revelation regarding his youngest son, and just how badly things could soon become if Gaara did not regain some of his sanity. The boy's mother crying out her dying declaration of Gaara being Suna's destroyer was ringing louder in his head. Your boy is a Jinchuriki, huh? All right. I'll take a look at the seal. From what I saw, the kid's lacking sleep, and no doubt his life in Suna had been less than pleasant, said Jiraiya while wondering why the Kazekage was suddenly interested in his son's neglected health. Let's just say I wish to make things less difficult for him and leave it at that, said the Kazekage before leaving with his forces back to Suna. Gado Kanpani Underground. Hinata awoke to find herself on a bed that for a month had not been her own, as she got ready to once again face the day, and looked around her room she was in while recalling how things had changed since encountering Uzumaki Naruto in the Forest of Death. The day she first awoke in this room, Hinata had first been terrified until the memory of how it happened kicked in, and the Sith head Haku had them all come out of their assigned rooms so they know who was chosen from the Chunin exams. Hinata saw a few of the Leaf Shinobi, who had been participating in the Chunin exams like herself, a female IWA Shinobi, another female with red haired from Grass, and 3 Shinobi from Kyumo.
the last of the group being her least favorite for obvious reasons pertaining to the girl's childhood, but Hinata ignored them despite the eyes of those three women looking in her direction, and the thought of who she was ringing through their collective minds. The special Jonin, who was the head proctor of the Forest of Death, had been less than civil upon being let out of her room, as she swore, drew a kunai, and basically threatened to castrate Naruto unless he let everyone go. Hinata saw the Sith counter the woman's threats by force choking her off the ground, threw the special Jonin against the wall, pinned her there with a few seal tags, and told Haku to use sunbond needles on her body for target practice until Anko promised to behave. Tenten had tried to intervene, but the boy's glare in challenging him made the weapon user freeze, and basically watch while Haku assaulted Anko's body with needles. While this happened, Naruto had explained that he had gone through a transformation of sorts to those that knew him as Uzumaki Naruto, and that person had been dead for roughly 4 years. That he had become something beyond that frail and weak boy the Leaf had come to enjoy abusing for their own sick amusement into what stood before them while going by his new name, Darth Sage. The red-haired girl with glasses had asked about the young Sith's dark power, as she was curious about it, and Darth Sage had informed her it was another source of energy within him before telling the girl to drop it. Another thing the young Sith did was inform them that they were his to command, to obey every order given, and to expect punishment for defying him unless they had a damn good reason to do it with the reward outweighing the risk. Tenten had objected to this, as she stated that her loyalty was to the Leaf, even if Niji had been a jerk to her, and wouldn't serve someone like him in a million years. That the path to becoming strong like Senju Tsunade could still be obtained by being a Leaf shinobi and do things differently from now on. Again, Darth Sage was not impressed by the girl's sudden outburst, and Tenten paid for it with a blast of Sith lightning that lasted for a little over a minute. But from the looks of the agony the weapons user's face, a mere minute of that must have seemed like pure hell, and felt like it lasted much longer. Still, Hinata could see it got the message across clearly to the others, as they saw the Sith was dead serious, and if they wanted to stay alive to get stronger, they would get serious too. For the next month, the boy she once knew as Uzumaki Naruto had trained them all like there was no tomorrow while Haku kept a keen eye on each one, and made sure they didn't get any ideas of going rogue. Anko herself had been a bit difficult to break, but once Naruto covered the floor with water, and a few repeated uses of 1,000 needles of death had done wonders for the woman's attitude. The woman also was more compliant after hearing Orochimaru had been slain by the Kazekage himself after the failed invasion, which the Sith revealed he had a hand in altering so the Sannin was caught in his own pincer movement, and then ultimate demise. Further proof of this showed when Anko found the curse seal on her neck was no longer there and was free from the Sannin forever. Yet, Anko still wished to leave, of that much Darth Sage could sense from her, and further preyed on the woman's greatest fears. That even if he allowed Anko to return to the Leaf, regardless of the curse seal being gone, the village would never accept her, and if they did, it would be false in how the people viewed her. The Sith told the woman that just because the curse seal was gone didn't mean Anko would just suddenly change into her true self, because the special Jounin was already acting like her true self and nothing would ever change that. The Leaf would never admit that they had treated her wrong, just like they would never admit to mistreating the certain Kyuubi Jinchuriki who never asked to be the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in the first place. Why go back, Anko? You know what awaits you back in Konoha? They'll spit on you at first, call you a traitor, a deserter, and possibly accuse of siding with Orochimaru. Only after seeing the curse seal is no longer on your neck will they suddenly apologize, fake smiles all around, as they pray you'll take their word for it, and not slaughter them for their past transgressions that stirred the village into hating you from the start. Hinata remembered that painful truth-filled fact all too well, as did Anko herself, and was given the choice to leave this area to head for Konoha. That if the special Jounin truly believed that things would change for the better and that life in the Leaf wouldn't be a sugar-coated lie with fake smiles from everyone, then she could go home. If not, then she would stay, and help train his small yet strong troops in his name. After what seemed like hours, Anko chose to stay, and train the others in what she knew was teachable to them. "Good morning, Hinata-chan," said Haku, as she appeared without her mask today, a face filled with beauty, and made Hinata wonder if Naruto had taken a liking to the female ice user in a romantic way. "Good morning to you too, Haku-sama," said Hinata in a respectful tone, as she like the others were told immediately of Haku's position being the Sith's right hand, and thus would be obeyed when orders were given when he wasn't there himself.
Is everyone awake? Said Haku, as she only saw Hinata at the moment, and knew that some of them liked to sleep in. Yes. Some of them are getting up. Lee has been up for what looks like a while doing push-ups. How Sage-sama convinced Lee to leave the green spandex suit I'll never know, said Hinata before giggling at the memory of how Lee tried to defend his former sensei's style of fashion in front of the Sith. A steel shipping container was crushed into a ball and thrown into wall, leaving a massive dent upon impact, while Darth Sage just glared at the slightly older boy. I don't either, but it's clear Sage-sama got his message across, and that's what matters, said Haku before she saw the others coming out of their rooms, fresh, clean, and ready to tackle the day. Where is Sage-sama? Said Lee in his outfit, which was not tight-fitting like the green spandex, but black pants, combat boots, crimson metal-colored armored pieces over his equally crimson-colored shirt, and was wearing a black gauntlet around his hands. I honestly do not know. He has been away on business for the past week and has yet to return from it, said Haku, and the worry on her face showed slightly since it was clear he never went this long without returning. I'm right here, said Darth Sage coldly, as he entered the room, and they could tell by his stance the trip had weighed down heavily on him. Master, are you all right? Said Haku, seeing him stagger a bit, and then make his body stand up straight. I'm fine. I'm just tired from my long trip, Haku. Nothing you need to concern yourself with, said Darth Sage hoarsely and breathing heavily now. No. It is my concern. You're not well, said Haku, as she saw the stress of whatever this place he visited had caused upon him, and now needed rest. I said I'm fine, Haku. Said Darth Sage angrily, as he prepared to use the dark side of the Force on her, which would be an absolute first since she joined him, but given his current mood after traveling he didn't really care at this point in time, and was about to unleash Sith lightning when his strength gave out before collapsing on the ground. Sage-sama. Said Haku was at his side in an instant and held him close to her form. What's wrong with him? Said Tenten, having never seen him in this state since being forced to join, and was probably the only member of this group that still had lingering thoughts of leaving it. I don't know, but he needs rest and our help. Said Haku, as she took him to her room since it was the closest bed on hand, and removed the Sith robes to get a better look at his face before everyone gasped at the sight of it. The boy looked like he had been hit with a sickness beyond their understanding and had dark twisted veins showing throughout his skin, while the Sith seemed to be struggling within himself. Over what, they weren't sure, but Karen mentioned her sensory abilities showed the dark energy swirling violently inside his body powered by his very rage, and that wherever he went had brought about this storm to an apex that threatened to consume him from the inside. What should we do? Said Hinata, as she along with the others turned to Haku, and the girl stood by the boy with a calculating look on her face. You are all going to continue your training like you did yesterday. I will try to find a way to heal Sage-sama, said Haku, getting shocked looks from Karen, Tenten, and even Anko. Why? He was about to attack you with his powers. If anything, you should be taking a sunbon needle straight to brain. Said Tenten while Haku caressed his slightly sweating forehead. Because I am his tool. I live to serve him and he gives me purpose. Zabuza-sama was the same way when I was healing him, yet he never once struck me, even when the urge was there, and knew deep in his heart that striking his tool would accomplish nothing, said Haku, as she went into her bathroom and got a wet towel to put on the young Sith's forehead. But in his condition, there is nothing stopping you from living your own life, and being free to be your own person. We could all go right now, NACK. Said Tenten, as she was quickly grabbed by the throat by Haku, and pinned to the wall with the female ice user glaring daggers at the girl. Never suggest that again. I will never abandon Sage-sama. My life and purpose is to see him succeed. To be his shield and sword should he require me to take their shape. To cast down all betrayers and deserters that threaten him in some shape or form. Your words are near the edge of those things, girl, and if you ever speak them again in my presence, I will break you. Said Haku coldly before throwing the stunned Tenten on the floor and then walking towards her master. What a freak! Thought Tenten, as she had never seen someone so submissive to another,
and do just about anything for that individual. Tenten's thoughts on the matter were shattered seconds later when Darth Sage sat up with the speed of Madogai without weights on. He looked at Tenten, his face a look of fury, the eyes a reddish yellow, and showed a rage no one had seen on him now directed at Tenten. "Sage-sama?" said Haku in bewilderment, as he got out of the bed, ignoring her entirely, which may have been a good thing considering how angry the Sith was at the moment, and grabbed Tenten by the neck like the female ice user had only mere moments ago before carrying her out of the room. "If there is one thing I will not tolerate, it's insubordination from my tools, and any of their whispers of possible desertion after all I've done to make them stronger than your supposed betters," said Darth Sage, his anger clearly directed at the terrified bun-haired girl. "I'm sorry, Sage-sama," said Tenten, as she realized her words and thoughts had sent him over the edge after whatever he had seen in his recent travels had pushed him to the very brink. "No. No, you're not. Not yet. But you will be soon. Of that I can assure you." "Haku. Anko," said Darth Sage with both women kneeling before him a second later. "Yes, Sage-sama?" said Haku and Anko at the same time. "Get this tool out of my sight and re-educate her in ways of understanding that my word is law," said Darth Sage through Tenten to Anko and Haku. "Yes, Sage-sama," said Haku and Anko before they took a weakly protesting Tenten away from him. "Sage-sama," said Hinata taking a step forward while the others watched the young Sith standing there with his mind focused on something before turning sharply to face the Hyuga girl. "Be careful, Hinata-san. Just because you mean him no harm doesn't mean he'll attack out of anger," thought Lee to himself. "What?" said Darth Sage with the Hyuga girl bowing slightly to show she meant him no harm and saw the others keeping a healthy distance from him. "What happened on your trip to make you so angry?" said Hinata, seeing the Sith's eyes flash with rage for a second before they seemed to show more stability. And his face didn't look so sickly. "I saw my ancestry homeland of Whirlpool where my mother was born. With my power, I felt the spirits of my ancestors all around me call out for justice be done against their killers and destroyers that had betrayed them. The dark side was so powerful there I was overwhelmed by the images they showed, and I didn't know how to vent it," said Darth Sage, seeing Hinata take a step forward and surprising everyone, she hugged him. "You don't have to bottle it up, Sage-sama. It's not healthy," said Hinata, as she felt him stiffen the moment they made contact, and didn't return it for a few seconds. "You are correct, Hinata. It is unhealthy," said Darth Sage, knowing his masters had told him to be mindful of what he expects when they arrived at Whirlpool. "Sage-sama, if I may speak?" said Yujito, taking a step forward with the Sith looking at her while slowly breaking free of Hinata's hug. "Speak," said Darth Sage while looking at her. "We were wondering what your next move was concerning us?" said Yujito, with the others nodding since they wished to know. "Simple. It won't be long before this location is discovered by Jiraiya of the Sannin, as he has been away on other business recently, but I believe knows our main location is here, and will come for us all. So, I have decided that the best thing for us to do is relocate to Whirlpool," said Darth Sage, seeing they were shocked by this news. "Whirlpool? But, why?" "That place is, said Lee at a loss for words. "In ruins? A place where I nearly had a psychotic break? I know. I'm over it. Besides, I intend to rebuild Whirlpool from the ground up, and bring about my new empire from that very place. My ancestors will have their revenge and we will be the ones who deliver it upon them, all of them," said Darth Sage, as he knew there were other guilty parties, and would punish others that had a hand in the creation of all 9 Jinchuriki in the world. He would enjoy making this world shake down to its very foundation and rebuild it into his own image, using the bodies of his enemies to build it on. Chapter 7 of Sith and Slugs. Senju Tsunade, the granddaughter of the Shodame Hokage, was considered by all the most feared woman and kunoichi in all of the elemental countries. She had a mean temper, an even meaner right hook with the strength to match, and knew more about the human body than anyone to date. One of the three Sannin, Tsunade knew how to hurt someone with minimal effort and cause maximum damage to an enemy should she ever choose do so. Seeing her old teammate again was making her want to do that right about now.
What are you doing here, Jiraiya?
I have no time to be around a pervert like yourself at the moment, said Tsunade suspiciously at the Sannin currently staring back with a goofy grin that was clearly meant to lower her guard.
Don't be like Tsunade.
I didn't even know you would be here and it's been ages since we last spoke to each other, said Jiraiya while Tsunade didn't buy it one bit.
Liar.
You have that cheesy fake smile I hate on your face.
You'd always have it when asking me for something, said Tsunade while Jiraiya's face went from cheesy smile to dead serious.
Okay.
I'll be blunt then and tell you the truth. Sarutobi-sensei is retiring again.
No one has the means to fill his shoes at the moment except a small handful of people, said Jiraiya while keeping the secret truth about the simple fact the handful consisted only of Tsunade and himself. That and the fire daimyo had ordered it after performing his own little investigation into the matter.
No. Not interested.
The position of Hokage is for fools, said Tsunade coldly while her assistant Shizun wanted to say something yet held her tongue.
I thought you might say that.
The old man doesn't want to let go of his title, but the fire daimyo is making him after the failed invasion attempt by Orochimaru. He's dead by the way, said Jiraiya while seeing Tsunade's eyes widen slightly at hearing her old teammate had died.
At Sensei's hands?
Said Tsunade curiously.
No. The Kazekage actually.
The invasion failed because the Kazekage had intervened with his own forces outflanking him and soon our old teammate is torn to pieces via a winjutsu, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade nod. Jiraiya, I want to ask a question, and if you lie to me, I swear on my family's honor you will not be coming back to Konoha alive, said Tsunade, as her tone became very serious, and Jiraiya was instantly on guard. Depends on the question, said Jiraiya while Tsunade was looking into her tiny cup of alcohol before looking up at him.
How did my godson die? How did Uzumaki Naruto die the night the Kyuubi attacked?
Said Tsunade while keeping her eyes on Jiraiya and the man's widened slightly at the unexpected question. Well you know Tsunade, the Kyuubi's chakra was too powerful, and it killed itself in the process of being sealed by the Yondaime. The baby may be an Uzumaki, but even someone from that clan couldn't survive Kyuubi's power if it fought back, and a child has no chance of fighting something on that magnitude, said Jiraiya with Tsunade looking him dead in the eyes while he talked. After he finished talking, Tsunade looked him in the eyes, into his very being, and saw all she needed to see from them.
So, he's dead? Without a doubt, my godson is dead, and you can show proof of it? Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya nod though he was clearly confused by this line of questioning. Yeah. Sure. But, why are you asking me this now? After so many years?
Said Jiraiya with a frown on his face. Oh, no reason whatsoever.
Just talking about Orochimaru and Sarutobi-sensei brings up a lot of bad memories from the past, said Tsunade while Jiraiya nodded. Yeah. The boy would have been great.
Just like his parents, said Jiraiya while wincing inwardly at how deep a hole he just dug himself in front of Tsunade.
Well, enough about the past.
Go back to the leaf now Jiraiya and tell them I'm not going to be Hokage, said Tsunade with Jiraiya looking at her with a sad look on his face. That's a shame because I think you'd look sexy wearing the Hokage robes, said Jiraiya with a smirk while Tsunade crushed the cup in her hands. Get out of here Jiraiya or I'll do to your balls what I just did to my drinking cup, said Tsunade not wanting to put up with her former teammates' perverted ways right now. I'll be hanging around for a few days at a nearby hotel. Just in case you change your mind, said Jiraiya smiling at Tsunade before leaving.
What do you think Tsunade-sama?
Said Shizun seeing her the older woman think for a second in deep thought.
Get our things. We're leaving, said Tsunade, as she paid for their drinks, and left in a completely different direction than Shizun.
She had to see the living proof that Jiraiya had lied all these years to her face.
Tsunade had to see Uzumaki Naruto, or as he called himself now, Darth Sage.
It had happened in a strange way, as Tsunade recalled it almost like it was yesterday, and remembered being in a casino betting money that she'd eventually lose. Or in some cases win, but something bad happening soon after, and the woman would have to deal with something major while Shizen tagged along. As for meeting her presumed dead godson, Tsunade was sitting at the blackjack table, winning little, and losing a lot like usual at the time the robed figure appeared. He sat next to her, a bit young to be playing, and saw the dealer ask if he was a shinobi before the boy merely made a gesture for the dealer to accept him. And the dealer did. Just like that. So, the two played, made little small talk, or rather none at all, while Tsunade kept one eye on her guards with another eye on him. Flashback. You should really focus on your cards more than me. Makes people suspect we are both working together when we've really just met for the first time, said the robed figure, who now received a glare from Tsunade, and was now refocusing back on her cards. As if I need help or to cheating to win, said Tsunade, getting 10 of diamond card before she got a bottom card. No. Since you constantly lose 99% of the time, said the robed figure, as he got a king of spades, and then a bottom card. So, you know who I am, said Tsunade, with it being more of a statement than question directed towards the boy. I do. Though I'm not here to collect a bounty placed on your head or collect the money you owe people if that's what you're currently thinking. I'm here to play a game. Stay, said the robed figure to both the dealer and to Tsunade. Good. Because if you were, I'd knot you into next week, and then punch you 2 months into the past. Hit me, said Tsunade, as she got a third card, a queen of spades, and held back the grimace. Good to hear. Though I wonder, would you make such idle threats to your godson? 1. Uzumaki Naruto? Said the robed figure, seeing Tsunade's hands flex slightly, and knew he hit a nerve. I didn't like it when someone digs up loved one from my past, who have died needlessly, and won't stand for it now. So, finish playing this hand with me and leave before I decide to get violent in ways you couldn't begin to imagine, said Tsunade in a dangerous tone, indicating she'd carry out her threat of doing something violent. I know you would. I can feel your anger. It gives you focus. Makes you stronger. But the anger you feel shouldn't be aimed at me. It should be aimed at those that spread lies that you were so blinded in your grief to believe in by those you trusted without question, said the robed figure before turning over his covered card to reveal the ace of hearts. What are you talking about? Said Tsunade, as she flipped her covered card over to reveal it was a 5 of clubs, and thus went way over. Gentleman has 21 and is the winner, said the dealer, as he had a king of diamonds, and 8 of hearts, giving him a total of 18. I'm talking about the truth being hidden from you by the liars of the Leaf Village. Ask yourself this, is the body I saw of a dead burned baby really my godson's, or is a special clone designed to fool even my medical skills? Said the robed figure, as he collected his winnings, and gave a few chips to Tsunade in case she wanted to continue. Why? Said Tsunade while staring at the small pillar of chips. Why what? Said the figure. Why are you telling me this? Why are you digging up such a painful time for me? Said Tsunade, seeing the figure turn slightly to look at her. Because the boy you were supposed to raise as your godson was in more than you ever could have been, and it was their fault. You know who it was. Only 2 people outside of yourself knew of his heritage. Only 2 people knew you'd take the child away from the leaf to protect him from the wolves that were in the village waiting to pounce once they smelled blood, said the robed figure, and saw Tsunade getting angry. But not at him. Sarutobi-sensei and Jiraiya, said Tsunade, knowing it all fit since they were the only ones capable of pulling it off. But why? Correct, said the figure while Tsunade was thinking everything inside her head. Where is my godson now? Is he still in the leaf? Said Tsunade, seeing the figure let out a chuckle. Meet me outside the city in 5 minutes and I'll tell you everything about your godson. Come alone, said the figure before leaving the Sannin to her private thoughts. End flashback. And boy did her godson tell the Sannin everything.
The pain, the suffering, and abuse the village had put him through just to satisfy their own stupidity. It made Tsunade enraged to know her sensei had a hand in it from the start, and Jiraiya had deliberately ignored his own duties to watch over Naruto like they planned from the start. She was surprised to see him with two well-developed women Tsunade recognized from the bingo book as shinobi from Kumo, and yet they did not wear their village's headband. Her godson had explained he was getting tools together to form his new empire within the heart what was once his mother's homeland of Whirlpool, and revealed a shocking truth to Tsunade about how it fell in order for the leaf to possess a Jinchuriki vessel for Kyuubi. While Tsunade didn't like the idea of these two women being called that, even if they were from a rival village, she couldn't fault the boy for doing everything he had done so far, and even admitted to herself that turning Suna against Orochimaru was impressive. The Sannin had been so sure he had won against the leaf, using Suna's financial situation against them, and the unstable Sabaka no Gara as the tip of the sword they would use to stab into the heart of the leaf. Yet Darth Sage, as he had told Tsunade to call him from now on, had turned the tables by removing Suna's problems with more wealth than the Wind Daimyo could shake a stick at, and all for betraying Orochimaru when he least suspected it, while making sure the light shined on Suna while making the leaf look like it was filled with incompetent jackasses. And that was a week ago. You will soon be visited by Jiraiya of the Sannin. He'll want to talk to you about taking the position of Hokage away from the old man. Try to make it seem like you're not the only candidate, but still pretty important to ask, and sweet talk you into it. Don't be fooled by his words. You and he are the only ones qualified. Turn him down and bring me up along with how I supposedly died. Let him lie in wait until he leaves you after turning down his offer to be Hokage of the Leaf. Then come see me. We have to talk some more. Those were her godson's words when they last spoke, and while she didn't believe in him seeing visions of the future at first, this was more than enough proof to consider the boy might have the gift. With Jiraiya. The Sannin sighed as he sat in his hotel room, drinking some sake while thinking about the past, and how Tsunade took Naruto's death hard since she really wanted to be the boy's godmother so damn badly. Hell, the Sannin would wager the woman would forsake gambling and heavy drinking just to raise the kid free of vices he may pick up from her. So why did he lie to the woman when he had the means to have Tsunade settle down in the village? She might have even thanked him in such a way he wouldn't need to do his research at the hot springs for a year. Stupid old monkey. Played on my grief just like I did hers, thought Jiraiya before letting out a sigh. Hey pervert, said Gamakichi, appearing in a poof of smoke and on the Toad Sannin's stomach. Hey Gamakichi. Did you follow Tsunade like I asked? Said Jiraiya, seeing the little orange toad nod. Yep. She's heading out of the city to meet someone by the looks of it, but the other woman Shizen went the other way, and took the pig with her, said Gamakichi with the Sannin in front of him frowned before it turned into a deadly serious look. She going to meet him, said Jiraiya sitting up and ignoring the orange toad in front of him. Hey! Watch it! And what do you mean she's going to meet him? Meet who? Said Gamakichi, seeing the Sannin head for the door. Forget it, said Jiraiya before he shut the door and leaving a confused summons behind. With Tsunade? You came back. As I knew you would, said Darth Sage sitting on a boulder with his eyes closed in meditation. Spare me the mystic stuff, Gaki. I'm here to talk to you about Jiraiya, said Tsunade while seeing him smile further. So, my irresponsible godfather tracked you down. Is he still alive after telling you that lie about how I apparently died during Kyuubi's sealing? Of course, he did. Though I am a bit surprised you haven't killed him yet, said Darth Sage, seeing Tsunade scowling at his semi-mocking tone. Killing him would have been too merciful, said Tsunade with the Sith let out a chuckle. Of course. The old adage of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned comes to mind, said Darth Sage while Tsunade scoffed. If that were the case, half the women in the world would have brought about the end of the world for the perverted smut-butch Jiraiya writes, said Tsunade, seeing the Sith let out a hearty laugh. Indeed. Though perhaps it hasn't happened because the women scorned don't know he's the writer? said Darth Sage, seeing Tsunade smirk at that. Perhaps, said Tsunade, knowing that was most likely true. We have company, said Darth Sage, as he frowned at seeing the figure not far away from Tsunade, and she turned to see Individual herself. Jiraiya, said Tsunade while her former teammate continued to scowl. Tsunade. I see you've been in contact with Naruto this whole time, said Jiraiya with Tsunade rolling her eyes. Only for about a week. Why do you look so angry? You lied first, remember? Said Tsunade in a sickly sweet voice. That's not the point here, Tsunade. Naruto's a criminal of the Leaf. He's killed its citizens, stolen shinobi from Konoha, and other villages to turn into his own tools to use how he sees fit, said Jiraiya, seeing the Sith scowl at him. You left out the part where I prevented Suna from siding with Orochimaru and turning your village into a burning wasteland. Did you know the Kazekage planned to aid your former teammate in the invasion? I thought not. It was through my intervention that kept Suna from siding with Orochimaru. It was through my misdirection that saved the Leaf. So, what if I killed a few people? They all deserve to die and we both know it. As for the shinobi I took, their potential was being wasted serving their villages, and I decided to be merciful by allowing them the means to have their talents appreciated. To grow stronger and become something more than their betters would allow, said Darth Sage, seeing the Sannin's face turn to fury. You may have saved the village, but you only damned it to feel slow agonizing pain, as the Fire Daimyo wants answers, and Kyumo is threatening war with the Leaf. The third Hokage now currently being investigated for his actions since originally coming out of his retirement, said Jiraiya, seeing the boy smile behind his hood. Good, said Darth Sage, like it was about time someone judged the old Kage. Good. Konoha is going to lose clients, funding, and strength from the inevitable decline this scandal will cause, said Jiraiya, seeing his godson laugh now while his two female bodyguards stood silent and expressionless since they were not allowed to laugh at the Leaf's misfortune. You make it sound like I should be caring about the future of Konoha. I don't. I will never show anything but contempt for my old home, and watch it slowly die like its people have tried with me, said Darth Sage, with his voice going from mockingly warm to deadly cold. Naruto, I know the village wronged you, but that doesn't mean such extremes must be taken against it, and the people running the Leaf, said Jiraiya, seeing the boy's glare intensify. The Leaf village is run by arrogant people, who are acting like spoiled little children, and the big bad bullies on the playground while thinking they can get away with just about everything. I'm simply reminding them of the order of things, that when a child is being bad, the parent steps in and disciplines them harshly, said Darth Sage, seeing Jiraiya scowl further. And what about you, Naruto? Do you honestly think I can just ignore your presence here now that I've found you? The order by the Sandaime Hokage to bring you back is still in effect, said Jiraiya, as he saw the boy's bodyguards shift into a more guarded position to defend the Sith, and knew this could get ugly. I see. So, you intend to take me back to Konoha? No doubt, where they will temporarily seal away Kyuubi, alter my memories, begin my re-education, and when everything is to their liking, they will allow me access to Kyuubi once more. Am I right? Said Darth Sage while Jiraiya grimaced. Perhaps. You are still a citizen of Konoha and thus belong to there, said Jiraiya, seeing the Sith shake his head in disagreement. You mean I'm their property? That I'm not person or even a shinobi? To you and them a Jinchuriki is property, to use how they see fit. I'd be a slave and all, but name in the Leaf, and even then I wouldn't put it past them to place some kind of seal on me to ensure my unwilling obedience to their commands, said Darth Sage while Tsunade was glaring a hole in Jiraiya, knowing only a seal master of his caliber could do all of that, and knew he would have ordered to do it too. It's how things are, Naruto. Whether we like it or not, said Jiraiya while feeling a dark energy swirling around Naruto and seeing the rage in his eyes. And my mother? Was she property too? Said Darth Sage, seeing Jiraiya's eyes widen in shock at him mentioning her. Your mother? You mean Kushina? said Tsunade with the Sith nodding.
According to Kyuubi, my mother was its previous host, and your grandmother being the first of all three of us. So, tell me Jiraiya, from your own point of view, are those of my family bloodline on my mother's side, who became Kyuubi Jinchuriki considered property, and thus should be treated as such? Said Darth Sage, seeing Jiraiya narrow his eyes at him. You don't want to know my point of view, said Jiraiya, seeing his godson just let out a hollow chuckle.
No, I don't want to know it.
What I want, my failure of a godfather, is something beyond your simple, narrow mind, and comprehension in terms of my own personal goals, said Darth Sage while Jiraiya let out an empty chuckle.
Don't tell me, you want to rule the world, and be all-powerful like a god? You're not the first to think that up, and you won't be the last. Said Jiraiya, seeing the Sith smile cruelly at him. Without the necessary training and guidance?
Then yes, it would be folly to try, and be a complete failure.
Oh wait.
I do have the necessary training and guidance, so my goals are not so folly after all. Said Darth Sage mockingly at Jiraiya, who moved his feet slightly, and getting ready to move against the Sith.
We'll see.
Once I seal away Kyuubi, his teachings will be the first thing Inoichi removes from your mind, and start off with a clean slate, said Jiraiya while the boy's bodyguards Samui and Karui got ready for him with their weapons.
Fool! I never did say my teacher was Kyuubi.
While it's true, the fox is teaching me to control its demonic power, my primary teacher in all that I know is not the Kyuubi, and a being of great wisdom, said Darth Sage, seeing Jiraiya look at him, completely stunned by this news.
What? Kyuubi isn't responsible for some of things the others have witnessed him doing?
Thought Jiraiya while the boy just grinned at him.
Yes.
My primary master is the one who taught me a many great things, and still does in a learning while doing kind of manner. Everything I did leading to my escape was a test, the taking of Gado's company was a test, and breaking the perfect image Konoha had of itself while discrediting the Sandaime Hokage was a test placed before me. I passed with flying colors.
Said Darth Sage while laughing at Jiraiya currently seething at him. I see.
Something tells me, even if I did bring you home to be re-educated, this teacher of yours wouldn't be sealed away, and undo all my work. Even if I sealed away your chakra, the power you wield now wouldn't go away, and could kill me in an instant, said Jiraiya, seeing the Sith nod.
Perhaps.
Perhaps not, O wise toad sage. Though how you got the right to be a sage at all I will never really understand. I sense so much fear in you, it's disgusting, and pathetic really.
No wonder Tsunade wouldn't go on dates with you back then.
So full of yourself and never taking things seriously. Always focusing on trivial things like your research and being a super pervert that you are so proud at proclaiming for all to hear despite the fact it makes you look like a complete joke. Said Darth Sage, as he attacked the Sannin from within his very core, knowing how to strike at his soul, and mind where it would hurt the most. I don't have to take this from a punk like you, Naruto. You may have those dark powers, but you're still no match for me, even with those bodyguards, and I'm going to make you ever regret ever trying to break free of your responsibilities, said Jiraiya, taking a step towards his godson, only to be blasted back, and skidded roughly 20 feet before being able to stop.
My responsibilities?
What about yours, Jiraiya? Shaking off being a godfather and then denying your former teammate the right to be a godmother to her only godson. I have had just about lost my patience with your hypocrisy. Said Darth Sage, as he had put up with the man's presence long enough, and decided now would be the best time to make an example out of the Sannin. Good, because I'm sick of looking at the twisted evil thing my godson has become, said Jiraiya, rushing forward again with the boy's female bodyguards rushing forward, their old weapons destroyed in the forest of death replaced with newer versions.
At least until the old ones could be repaired when time permitted.
Jiraiya leaped over Karui, moved to the right to dodge Samui's attack, ducked under the horizontal swing made by Karui, blocked the knee to his face made by the busty blonde, and viciously broke her leg before elbowing the former Kumo Kunoichi hard in the gut. That did little to stop Samui though, as she thrust her tanto up from her position on the ground, trying to at least wound him, and cut his cheek when he tried to avoid the attack.
Jiraiya just barely had enough time to get over his shock when Samui's sword was now coming down upon him and he had to leap away with his hair paying the price with a chunk of it being removed. You only have yourself, the Sandaime Hokage, and Konoha to blame for what I am. For making this path appear before me. You all wanted a monster, demon, and weapon to be forged for the purpose of deterring rival powers. Well, here I am, Jiraiya. The fruits of all your labor and plans standing before you with the desire to follow this path to its bloody conclusion to whatever end it leads me, said Darth Sage, as Samui went on the offensive while Tsunade went to work on healing Kaori's leg, and the bruising to the stomach for good measure. Damn it! I need to get to Naruto and this woman's not making it easy. We'll say this for the kid, he's got a good eye for competent shinobi, and not bad looking either, thought Jiraiya, as he found this kunoichi in front of him was not some slacker of a genin, but a skilled Jounin-level shinobi, and clearly driven to protect her master at all cost. Seeing a rare opening from one of Samui's sword swings, the Sannin took it, and hit the girl with a Rasengan that sent her flying back into a boulder near Tsunade. With both women down, Jiraiya rushed forward, another Rasengan forming in his right hand, and saw Naruto looking at the jutsu with great interest. Just before reaching him, the Sith in training dodged the hand thrust with the orb of chakra in the Sannin's hand, grabbed the wrist of the extended limb, and maneuvered behind Jiraiya while holding the right arm behind the man's back. The strength behind the hold was something a 13-year-old child his age should not have, which was granted to Sage using the Force, and one the Sith had no intention of yielding anytime soon. Jiraiya was surprised by this move, as he did not expect the sudden super speed and strength from a kid with no shinobi training at all. Now Jiraiya of the Sannin, you will share your secrets with me, and all that you know will become mine, said Darth Sage, as he put his left hand on the back of Jiraiya's head, and using the Force to extract information from the Sannin's mind. No! He mustn't know what I do, thought Jiraiya, as he tried to fight it, but the feeling of his mind being drained of information was already starting to tax him, and only had one recourse open to him. Going through quick one-handed hand signs before it was too late, the Toad Sannin used Needle Jizo to make the Sith leap away, and give the boy a bloody left hand after being stabbed by over a dozen hairs acting like sharp flesh-piercing needles. A string of curses later, the Sith apprentice cursed his godfather's ability to defend himself before complete extraction of information could be obtained, and Darth Sage decided now was the time to leave. Samui. Kaorui. We're leaving, said Darth Sage, as he saw the two walking over to him while Tsunade watched Jiraiya struggling to keep himself up right after that move to drain his skull of knowledge. We're not done yet, Naruto, said Jiraiya while trying not to look drunk while wobbling while trying stay standing. No. We're not. There's still a lot inside your head I need to extract. Sadly, we are out of time, and we'll have to wait until another day comes when we cross paths once more, said Darth Sage bowing slightly and then began walking away with his wounded hand slowly healing with his two bodyguards right behind him. Sage-sama, forgive me for asking, but why did you not press the advantage and extract more from the Sannin? Said Samui while she wobbled slightly with Kaorui, as she was still hurting from the Rasengan, and even with Tsunade healing her had still left an ache in her body. Because I have enough for now. If I press the advantage, I risk causing more harm to a man who has a jutsu capable of harming me while I drain his mind, and we are in no rush. All is going according to plan. Suna is getting more clients, more funding, and the leaf is descending from the ranks of being the top shinobi village in all of the elemental countries. Soon, Tsunade herself will join us, and we will acquire a powerful ally to teach several of you the medical arts. From what I've seen here today, one of you will need to know these things when accompanying me anywhere, and there is also a chance to acquire control of mist from its current Kage, said Darth Sage with a grin on his face knowing he could bolster his forces several times over with the right amount of finesse. How do you plan to do that, Sage-sama? Said Kaorui, as she was curious to how her master would take control of mist and all its internal problems. Simple. Right now, certain factions within Mist are in the state of a rebellion against its current Mizukage, and the long continuous struggle is like a slow-acting poison to the village itself. The only cure for Mist now is to accelerate the poison to the point where we can flush out the negative effects, and rebuild from the ground up using the surviving shinobi, said Darth Sage, sensing both women looking at each other for a second. Are you saying what we both think you're saying? Said Karui, seeing the Sith nod. Yes, Karui. We're going to accelerate the coup d'etat against the Mizukage and use my company to provide the rebels with what they need to win, said Darth Sage, knowing his company could sell weapons to them and further connect with that area of the war-torn world. Is that wise, Master? What if they lose? Said Samui, seeing the Sith smirk at her. They won't lose, Samui, because I won't let them lose. Rebels like these have the will and desire to win. All they need are the tools to win this war, and in return, they become fully indebted to me for my assistance. In the end, I will have the support of experienced, well-trained shinobi who know war, fought in a way, and capable of fighting using any means necessary under my command. I will merge Mist and Water Country as a whole into my new empire with a strong enough power base from my company to finance it to keep my enemies from attacking, said Darth Sage, with both women being very impressed by this action. But will the Leaf and Kumo give you time to make that happen? What if IWA learns you took one of their shinobi? Said Samui, as she had always found looking at every angle was better than focusing on one. It doesn't matter. Suzumabachi was considered a disgrace to IWA, and when the official word of her dying came, they cared next to nothing upon hearing the lie. Since siding with me, I have helped her get stronger and develop her skills to the point where she could rival the Aburame clan in commanding her insects, said Darth Sage, having spent a great deal of time with each of his subordinates and working them into the ground until the very idea of training with him and still a whimper escaping their mouths. The former Leaf shinobi named Tenten still doesn't like being your tool, Sage-sama. Her pride as a kunoichi won't allow it, said Karui, as she along with Samui had been charged with teaching the younger woman their sword skills, and had found the bun-haired girl to be very stubborn. I will deal with her myself in my own way, but for now we must stay the course, and learn from each other in order to become stronger, said Darth Sage, as he had Haku teach Hinata, and Karen in the medical arts, with Hinata sharing what she knew with her own healing cream she developed in secret before the Chunin exams even started. Rock Lee was learning swordsmanship with a katana and using some of Form 2, Makashi style, and focus more on Form 4, Ataru, since the latter would fit the former shinobi of the Leaf's physical acrobatic-like form. The young Sith knew the boy had great physical endurance using weights, could move at incredible speed, and was perfect for knowing these forms. Of course, Plagueis had suggested his apprentice not teach Lee everything about Form 2, and keep certain things from being learned should they ever fight again using swords rather than fists. Darth Sage agreed, as he knew his students would learn everything he wanted them to know, but not everything the Sith knew, and keep a few hidden aces up his sleeve. Sadly, Anko didn't learn too much from him, or even the others, when it came to train aside from her usual regiment. In fact, the former Special Jounin was classified as more of a teacher than student when it came to overall training, and Sage had left her to teach them about female things of a sexual nature. It was something Haku had respectfully requested of him, as she felt it would help out Hinata, Karen, Tenten, and even the ice user herself. Since the females nominated for this were among the youngest of the entire group, Haku felt that they should know certain things of that area, and better prepare them for aspects of the female body their master could not handle. Since the Sith himself could not teach it, nor did he ever wish to, Anko was given the right to teach the sensitive issue to them, and Darth Sage further decided it would be the only lesson they could keep to themselves without him involved in any questions that came up. We will need new members soon, said Karui, with the Sith nodding in agreement. I know. I have planned to expand our numbers, but it requires going into sound, and I sense a great danger awaiting me there, said Darth Sage, with both women looking worried at that piece of information. Do you wish someone to accompany you? Said Samui, knowing he usually traveled alone to keep the others from being spotted. Actually, I do. I require Karen, Lee, and Yujito to accompany me on this next mission once it's time to head there. If all goes well, we can acquire one new member, said Darth Sage, with both women looking surprised. Just one? Said Samui, since she was expecting, well, more than just one. One master swordsman can defeat 100 poorly trained swordsmen in battle.
Or in my case the strongest warrior sound has that Orochimaru had a reason to covet above all others, said Darth Sage, seeing both women looking floored.
You are going to rob sound of Orochimaru's most prized warrior?
Said Karui, seeing the Sith look back and nod.
Orochimaru is dead, Karui.
There is nothing wrong with me taking what is no longer his to covet, said Darth Sage, knowing that was in fact the case. But you said a great danger was there waiting for you there, said Karui, seeing the boy nod. There is always danger waiting for me wherever I go.
Nothing can change that.
Besides, the reward will far outweigh the risks, and I sense the mission will be successful even if I went by myself, said Darth Sage, while now sensing their confusion.
Then why have the escort if you know it will be successful?
Said Samui, with the Sith apprentice stopping to look at her with deadly eyes.
Because the future is always in motion.
I won't take the risk of the future not being in my favor, said Darth Sage, knowing even with all his growing experience in the Force, the chance of something going sideways on him was always possible, and the only way to properly manipulate the future to bring things about the way he wanted was to put things in motion so they did happen that way. So, you're being safe rather than sorry, said Samui, hearing the boy let out a chuckle.
In a nutshell?
Yes.
Yes, I am, said Darth Sage, seeing the two sweat drop.
Konoha a few days later.
I still can't believe this happened,
said Kiba, as he was so angry right now, wanting to destroy something, or more specifically someone wearing dark robes with freaky powers.
It was beyond our control, Kiba.
We can only hope Hinata is being treated fairly, said Shino, while seeing his teammates snarl and act more animal-like with each passing day at losing their female team member. I'm going to shred that guy to pieces, said Kiba, as he slashed at a nearby tree, and howled out in rage.
I'm afraid you'll have to get in line, Kiba.
Our team was not the only one pilfered during the Chunin exams. Plus, the Leaf is currently having its past performance of the last decade being reviewed by the Fire Daimyo, and thus all missions outside the village have been suspended upon a thorough examination, said Kurenai, which like Kiba had also ticked her off, and the only reason Jiraiya had been allowed out was to persuade Senju Tsunade to become the new Hokage. The Hyuga clan main family isn't happy about this either, though from what my father has explained, it is probably the only reason none of the other villages have gone to war with us, and are possibly searching for their own missing shinobi, said Shino, as he had been having discussions about this matter with his father, and the Nara clan since both families had strong strategically based minds they hoped could anticipate the Sith's next move.
Guy's worried too.
Losing two of his students, with one being just like him and the other being a kunoichi in her own right, said Kurenai, knowing the man was being silent since it happened.
Any news on what is to happen now, Kurenai-sensei?
Said Shino, as they had all been training hard for the day they could be deployed to find their missing comrades, but they had no way to utilize their training until then, and it was becoming most irritating. Currently we're still on lockdown. However, I do know that our team, Team 9, and Team 7 will be coming together to form two teams with Hyuga Niji rotating between them, said Kurenai, with both her students looking surprised.
Hyuga Niji is going back and forth between teams? Not the Uchiha?
Said Kiba, since he expected the councils to try and come up with a reason to let that happen. They're all afraid Naruto might kidnap him too, or possibly kill the Uchiha just out of the clear spite he has for Konoha, said Kurenai, while the councils wanted to have Kakashi pump the Uchiha brat with enough power to light up a city and then have him go after the Kyuubi Jinchuriki.
How is the investigation regarding the Sandaime Hokage going?
Said Shino, as he had heard the rumors of the third Hokage being judged for his past actions after coming out of retirement when the Yondaime Hokage died, and the Fire Daimyo was already less than pleased by his findings. Whatever was going on behind closed doors between the Sandaime Hokage and the Fire Daimyo, with the feudal lord's own advisors in the room, it wasn't good. They went over how the old Kage went about handling Naruto's life and how he was being raised in the village to the ceiling of Kurama Yakumo's genjutsu abilities that did little in keeping her strange tendencies from getting dangerous. There was also the matter of the constant pampering of the Uchiha, who the Fire Daimyo felt didn't deserve it, as the boy had done little to receive it, and infuriated the man that no one in the village had seen to put a stop to it. Even worse, the Fire Daimyo owned financial investigators, who were all assigned a small samurai escort, had found certain discrepancies within Konoha's records, and traced the source to 2 clan bank accounts. More specifically, the 2 accounts belonged to both the Uzumaki and Namake's clan account that were slowly being depleted by the village, even though such resources were not the village's to take. The fire daimyo knew that the current Kyuubi Jinchuriki was the Yandame's son, as he'd been the one performing the marriage between the man and his wife Uzumaki Kushina, so it wasn't hard to figure out the child was theirs. He had been told, assured even by the Sandame Hokage, that the boy would be loved here in the leaf, and become strong like his parents did. If there was one thing Akage knew never to do, it was to lie to their village's feudal lord, and have him come to the village to dig into its past personally. Of course, the fire daimyo had realized upon seeing the ugly exposed lie for what it was. The feudal lord soon understood why the other daimyos kept a close eye on their villages more than him, and felt his own shame for letting himself trust the Sandame Hokage to such a degree. Still, the Sandame Hokage wasn't entirely at fault either, as the councils had played a hand in things too, and thought they knew how to run the leaf. So as it stood, the village was in lockdown, missions outside of the leaf were on hold, suspended indefinitely until informed otherwise by the fire daimyo himself, and by no other authority figure with him. Not good. Jiraiya of the Sannin was sent to acquire Senju Tsunade into being the next Hokage, but if she doesn't agree to it, then another will have to be made, and we don't have many shinobi even remotely close to matching the strength of either remaining Sannin, said Kurenai, knowing there could be a few weaker potentials in the Jounin ranks, but she doubted any of them could properly handle the reins of power that came with the right to be Hokage, and manage Konoha from the chair behind the authoritative desk. You guys? Jiraiya-sama is back, said Ino, as she was running towards them, and heard through her gossip network of the Sannin's return. With Tsunade? Said Kurenai, with hope that with her in charge, the lockdown could be lifted, and they could hunt for their missing comrades. Sadly, he was alone, and from what I heard, he ran into Naruto in the process, said Ino, seeing the group look stunned. Did Jiraiya-sama see if Naruto had Hinata-chan or any of the others with him by chance and rescued them? Said Kiba, while Ino shook her head no. No. Naruto had 2 of the kunoichi he captured in the Forest of Death, who were from Kumo, and they fought Jiraiya when he moved to take him back to the leaf, said Ino, while Kurenai stiffened at that news, since Kumo always reminded her of Hinata and the hell that incident when she was a little girl started. Was he able to injure Naruto? Said Kurenai, seeing Ino shrug. I'm not really sure. According to the mission report my dad read, Jiraiya-sama was able to use a jutsu involving his hair, and hurt Naruto's left hand. But Jiraiya said the wound would do little to slow him down, as the injury would soon heal in a matter of moments, and just be considered a minor annoyance to him, said Ino, who was clearly confused by exactly what that meant, and Kurenai realized that such unawareness was most likely due to no one telling the younger generation about Naruto's status in being a Jinchuriki. Such an injury probably would be considered a minor annoyance thanks to the Kyuubi, thought Kurenai, knowing the boy wasn't going to let such an injury stop him. What about finding Tsunade-sama? Said Shino, seeing Ino looking a tad worried. Well, from what I heard, she's not only coming back to the leaf, but Jiraiya-sama also stated that Tsunade knows the truth, and refused to become Hokage, said Ino, while not understanding the part she quoted, and neither did her current audience. And what the hell does that even mean? Said Kiba angrily, as he couldn't believe the woman would ditch Konoha over some kind of hidden truth, and just say screw you to the Leaf Village. It means that we are, as you would so eloquently put it, screwed, Kiba, said Shino in his monotone voice. With Jiraiya. So, it's true. Tsunade is siding with Naruto, said Kakashi, seeing the Sannin nod while they sat on a roof of a nearby building. Yeah. Naruto got to her before I did and basically exposed my lie the Sandame had me cook up to keep him in the village. Now she hates the leaf even more for it, said Jiraiya, seeing Kakashi flip a page of his book. How did the fire daimyo take the news? Said Kakashi, knowing the rumors about the mission were still flying all over the place. Not well. He's so angry with us for lying not only to Tsunade, but to him, and breaking his trust in how we raised Naruto, said Jiraiya, while Kakashi shrugged. The man is just naive and ignorant, Jiraiya. He should have known what would happen to Naruto upon the boy being made a Jinchuriki. It's common information, said Kakashi, as he kept reading, and yet saw Jiraiya nod despite himself. I know. It's actually what Sarutobi-sensei preyed upon with him when reporting to the Fire Daimyo about it. Minato wanted his son to be seen as a hero, but we knew that just wasn't possible, and that his idea of changing how people here viewed Jinchuriki was a pipe dream. We all knew Kushina was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, how the two of them felt about each other, but were being so damn hesitant to admit it, and just get them to get together as planned since we knew how powerful a child between them would be. It's why we sold Kushina out to Kumo, as we knew Minato would finally go all out like he had been hesitant to do before, and in the process rescue Kushina with a good chance of them falling in love, said Jiraiya, knowing the plan was a risk, but one the Sandaime had him implement, and both had been pleased with the results. Was that the same way with the Shodaime's wife too? Said Kakashi, seeing Jiraiya shake his head no. They loved each other from the start. All natural, if you will. It's what actually allowed us to have the alliance with Whirlpool in the first place and realize the unlimited potential of the Uzumaki bloodline. It's why we had to wipe almost all of them out, said Jiraiya, as he had supplied the necessary intel needed to invade the place, and crush it on the orders of the Sandaime while planting evidence saying it was Iwa's doing. Does Naruto know? Said Kakashi, seeing Jiraiya frown. That I had a hand in it? No. If he did, Naruto would have used Kyuubi's power, and I probably wouldn't be alive right now. Then again, the same could be said about Tsunade too, as she has no idea the Leaf had a hand in the destruction of her grandmother's home, and would violently level the village if she did learn the truth, said Jiraiya, knowing the female fury behind Tsunade would reach untold levels that could possibly rival Kyuubi's past actions. We have to stop them. I don't need to tell you what that means, said Kakashi, as he had seen Jiraiya's face harden, and knew such a fact had crossed the Sanin's mind. If it comes to that, I'll kill Tsunade, and Naruto myself if there is no other way to put a stop to this, said Jiraiya, seeing Kakashi nod. Underground Route HQ. Danzo was concerned about the latest developments above in Konoha. The Fire Daimyo was with his old rival, talking about the village's past, their actions against the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and other things that couldn't be brought to public light outside of that room. Naturally, Danzo had done things below even the Hokage's own radar too with his root shinobi, and knew he was moderately safe depending on how the Fire Daimyo handled the growing scandal. They too agreed to keep the other's dirty secrets they knew the other had done out of the feudal lord's line of sight, but Danzo knew the agreement was only as good as the man with nothing to lose from keeping such secrets from being exposed. Right now, the Sandaime Hokage had a lot to lose, and Danzo knew it was only a matter of time before the third spoke of his rival's dealings in exchange for leniency. Report, said Danzo to one of his root shinobi in the room. We have word from our spies that Uzumaki Naruto is heading to Rice Country with several kunoichi with him. One is rumored to be the Nibi vessel, said a root shinobi kneeling in front of their leader. Damn it! Two Jinchuriki are running around freely and I can't grab them, thought Danzo with a grimace while also thinking of Sai and how his promising subordinate had been slain by the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. What are your orders, Danzo-sama? Said the root shinobi, awaiting his command. We can do nothing for now until the lockdown is lifted. With Tsunade refusing to be the next Hokage, we have to wait a little longer until the Fire Daimyo himself chooses my old rival's newest successor, and we can mobilize to capture both vessels, said Danzo, seeing them nod and then scatter to prepare for that order. Even if Danzo himself hated to play the waiting game. With Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, why did you spare Jiraiya? Said Shizune, as she walked with her teacher out of the city, and seeing the female Sannin walking with a purpose. As I told my godson, it would be too merciful to just kill him, and be done with it. No. The Leaf Village is a lie. A big fat fucking lie, Shizune. People like my grandfather and my granduncle forged Konoha to be a guiding light of sorts in the shinobi world to bring about stability. Now it's a perversion of lies, deceit, and betrayal that would make Uchiha Madara blush with praise at their actions. said Tsunade before she punched a nearby tree and made it shatter.
What do you intend to do?
Said Shizen with worry.
I have no ties to the leaf. None.
My only loyalty is to you, Tauntaun, and my godson.
He wants to forge an empire that will consume the world, and by Kami I'm going to help him make it happen, said Tsunade, seeing Shizen looking her with a mixture of worry and confusion.
How? Said Shizen, since she had never seen Tsunade so angry.
Any way I can, said Tsunade, as she had a few ideas of where to go, and was going to do it there right now. No more Mrs. Nice Slug Princess. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.